Welcome to the Learning Can't Wait podcast, a Full Mind production. At Full Mind, our vision is to ensure every child has access to an exceptional education. Each episode, we will be joined by pathfinders within and around the education space who are bringing about transformational change on behalf of deserving students. I am your host, Hayley Spira Bauer. It is a thing of beauty that I get to say we are wrapping season 10 of the Learning Can't Wait podcast. It was such an incredible season, and looking back, it feels like it was 6 seasons in one, but yet again, it was really just 23 episodes with incredible leaders talking about the work that they do. I started it off with Rebecca Boltzma in an episode called AI Aporia. Rebecca is an unabashed communicator of all things AI, and she really took us to the depths of thinking about what are the pros and cons of the education environment and landscape that we're staring down the barrel of as artificial intelligence and emergent technologies really take a hold in our community. Relatedly, we had Matthew Winters from the Utah Board of Education join us in the next episode with an episode called Creativity Machine. Matthew is so incredibly knowledgeable, and Utah is well known for leading the country in its AI evolution and adoption. And when you listen to this episode, you'll hear why. Next up, we had Emily Hartnett, who is from Women Leading Ed, join us next in an episode called Lift as We Lead. So often we see spaces and places devoid of women leaders, and Emily Hartnett is making sure that that is not the case moving forward in the world. We had Dr. Bill Chapman on next and leading as a people person. He is the current superintendent of London ISD, and he came on to share how his decades of tenure as a superintendent in different districts across Texas has really been fostered by his people leading skills and the way he interacts with others. And that episode truly made me excited for what's happening down in Texas. Next up, we had Healing Out Loud with Lindsay Fuller from the Teaching Well. Lindsay has deep, deep, deep roots and experience in ensuring as people and as leaders, we are taking care of ourselves as we teach, not just taking a break to get a manicure, as so many self-care booklets may recommend, but really fully investing in ourselves and our well-being so that we can be better for children and be best for ourselves and our futures. Matt Giovaniello came on next. Matt is my boat co-conspirator. He is also the CEO and co-founder of Frenalytics, which is focused on building tools for students with disabilities. His episode was really special. It was called Building Products, Mentoring Builders. Matt has been building an ed tech tool, but has also been at the same time mentoring other leaders, which is a really special part of his personality and has contributed to him knowing just about everybody in the space. The next episode is with Michael Lombardo from Brightbee, and we talk a lot in this episode called It's the Human Part about how schools are constantly seeking talent to ensure there are teachers and aides and bus drivers in their communities. And Michael's experience on other parts of ed tech really brought him to the understanding that some of the biggest needs today exist around there not being enough personnel to help run schools. So we had a really great conversation about humans and their importance in this day and age, and how schools are not going to disappear to technology, and how we're always going to need the humans that live within them. Next up, we had Matt Miller from Oko Labs, and Matt came to talk about deep connection in tech. So often when people hear me talk about Oko as an advisor, I will share that my biggest inspiration is how it brings technology to the center of classrooms, but through human connection, and how powerful that can be. It was a really fun conversation. It was long overdue, and I'm so glad he joined this episode. Next up, we had a panel with Ali Noodleman, Vicky Trujillo, and Alan Smith, who are three leaders doing incredible work across the state of Arizona to ensure that we put behavior above everything else in schools. It is so important, especially for our learners with disabilities, that our educators have the professional development know-how to support these learners and their disabilities in ensuring that they feel safe and welcome and belonging in classrooms. And this episode was a beautiful example of that. Next up, we had Paige Pullen in the episode Transforming Literacy at Scale, and Paige talked a lot about what's happening with phonics and phonemics and adoption within schools. But we had a really good side chat about middle schoolers and high schoolers who don't know how to read yet, and how the research is so conclusive that they too need that early phonemics and phonics instruction that we're giving to our early childhood kiddos right now. And I appreciate that as I think about students that I used to teach when I was working in schools in Harlem, and really how valuable those building blocks and foundational skills were to helping kids unlock the code. In episode 11, we had Hallie Smith on to talk about a feedback marketplace. She's from Hey There Agency, and she's built a marketplace for educators to get on board and give feedback to products and ed tech tools as they're being built, which is, wildly important for the founders that are building them and the technologists behind them. This is, a pretty recent development. And it was a really fun episode to record because it was hot off the presses at the time that we recorded it. Next up, we had Roberto Vargas join us for Modern Tech for Modern Schools. Roberto is an incredible leader for distinctive schools over in Chicago. And as we joke, he is not the guy that just tells you to restart your computer. He's the man who thinks about infrastructure and systems and technology and how it works within a school system and network in ways that benefit children. He's been a champion throughout his career of bringing smart technology to the classroom to further learning and their potential. Our next episode was with Michael Nerea and Alberto Aranaza. The episode was called Founders Deserve Better. They are from Transcend Network, and they spent a considerable amount of time talking about how founders in education really need to be cared for and seen and heard, and what they're doing at Transcend is so incredibly special as they nurture and mentor these leaders to build better products, but also take care of themselves, because this is a long game, as they put it, not a short way to quickly exit an organization. It was really special, and I know this episode resonated a lot with many of you. Next up, we had Arana Shapiro in Game On. Arana is the COO of Games for Change, and we talked a lot about game design and its purposefulness in classrooms, and how we can, as educators, think deeply, not just that games are fun for kids, but they're purposeful and intentional. It really was such a fun conversation as I thought about my own children and the way that they interact with learning, and so important that children feel bought in. And this episode really doubled down on that topic. Next up, we had Kunal Dalal with the episode called What is Agentic? Kunal is an educator that came from schools across California, the OC specifically, but has now kind of spun off on his own and is really helping parents and teachers and leaders and learners to understand artificial intelligence. What does it look like when our systems work together? How do we build for the future to make ourselves more effective and more impactful? I learned a lot on this episode. Kunal left me with more answers than questions, but also a lot of questions. So tune into this episode if you are curious about some of these big terms that are really popular in the education space right now as we talk about artificial intelligence. We then interviewed Dr. Marina Badillo Diaz in an episode called Social Work and AI. I didn't know that social workers were using artificial intelligence, but they sure are. And Marina is really at the forefront of that happening. She is making sure that other leaders and other social workers know how to use artificial intelligence to make their workloads lighter, and what some of the drawbacks are, but how you can overcome them. She is super knowledgeable, and it was so fun to reconnect with her. Next up, we had DM Chriselle from Enlighten App join us in the episode called Empathy Engineered. There's a reason why the Forbes Under 30 list is so often looked at with honor. And DM is such a good example of how you take your own experiences as a child and use them to make the world a better place. This episode was incredibly special. He wants children to feel seen and feel like they belong in their communities. And it was really nice to be able to interview him, and learn about Enlighten app and why it's getting so much attention. Next up, we had Payman Ruha Nifard come on from Timely for Schools, in the episode called Structures and Systems in Schools. I wish I had Timely when I was an education leader, because building a schedule is so such incredibly difficult Tetris. And having Payman on to talk about why he built Timely and how it's impacting schools and what the benefits are for leaders that are implementing this tool really made me feel jealous, but also excited that there are such tools as this today in the space. The next episode was called The Challenge of Leadership, and it was with Kalpana Rao, Kyle Conley, and Jennifer Dubey. This episode talked about their new organization called Building Leaders and how they've used their global experience in education and supporting leaders to be better in their schools and build better schools for children, how they use the global perspective to really drive forward a lot of change in PD for leaders today. We then head on to Dr. Melissa Sadorf about in an episode called Why Rural Matters. Melissa is the head of NREA, and what a joy it was to talk and nerd out with her about what's going on in rural America and why it's so beautiful and why we need to view rural schools with an asset-based lens versus a deficit-based lens. This was an episode I was really looking forward to recording, and I was so happy she was able to join me. Jenny Nash from Lego for Education came on next in an episode entitled The Enduring Legacy of Lego. I surely didn't know that there were specific kits for classrooms that were based on Legos to help kids learn, but Jenny really informed me about that. It is really, truly so wonderful to talk about Legos, nerd out about how Lego is really carving out its space in education and how you can do more than just put bricks together in classrooms to really engage children in their learning. Dr. Peter Steipelman came on next, and we talked about an imperfect leader, his experience leading schools in Missouri, to how he has really dramatically reframed his own thinking about leading and leadership. He has a book and a podcast called An Imperfect Leader that I actually had the good fortune to appear on, and it will probably be live this week as we're recording this episode here. But Peter is just a really humble leader, and he's actually heading back into schools now in Columbia, and really excited to see what comes from that. And our final episode was called The Mississippi Miracle on Preventative Justice with Lucy Martin. Lucy is from the Children's Literacy Project, and she did an incredible job telling us about all the movies they've made to help draw attention to the children's literacy crisis, and what's coming next for the Children's Literacy Project, which is the movie they're making called The Mississippi Miracle about what happened in Mississippi and how they so dramatically improved their outcomes and test scores. So this was a really, really fun episode to record after I got to hear her at the Begin Early Learning Conference. Lucy was an inspiration and is an inspiration, and I can't wait to see the next film that they make. So if you missed any of these episodes, you have the ability to tune in and listen. Thank you so much for joining me on the Learning Can't Wait podcast this season. Season 11 is set to be incredible, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Thanks for listening to the Learning Can't Wait podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share this episode. Be the first to know when we have a new episode by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have a suggestion for an episode, email us at podcast@fullmindlearning.com.